This is part 3 of a 3-part series talking about the 3 kits in front of you in the order they appear on the box. To wrap this series up, we're talking about my favorite SPT and the entire reason I bought this 3-pack. Hello and welcome back to another Plamo review. Today we're taking a look at the SMP SPT doll from Layzner. And starting off, as always, with the articulation. The head is on a ball joint, as well as a surprisingly tight hinge down here. It does let you look up a lot further than if it wasn't there. Shoulders are ball jointed. This can, well, it bumps against this. You bend that very slightly. This can go down so you can get all the way out at the shoulder, which is nice. There is a rotation at the bicep, a single jointed elbow for just over 90 degrees, and the hands, as always, are on a ball joint. This is also articulated, but that's a gimmick, so we'll get into it later. Waist is on a ball joint. It's definitely the most limited out of the 3, but still can rotate. Front skirt can move up out of the way. They are separated by default, which is nice. Side skirts can hinge up coming off of the back skirt, and the back skirt is solid, though honestly it's so small it doesn't really matter. Hips are the same as the other two, can shift down. Not the easiest thing in the world to do for this one, just because of how bulky the skirt is, but nice high kick. And like the other two, a rotation. But this one actually has a white piece in there instead of gray. There is a double jointed knee, but man, it is tight, though it does get a full bend easily, which is nice. It helps that this red piece here is part of the knee, so it can get all the way in. The ankle guard can come up out of the way, and the ankle itself is just a ball joint on a front to back hinge. That said, there's a surprising amount of range for what's effectively just a ball joint. So the doll is pretty well articulated for being such a little guy. Now, getting into accessories and gimmicks, let's start off with the paint. This is the one that requires the most secondary paint compared to the pre-painted stuff. Just to start, the face, like the gold in the visor and the chin yellow, are painted. I did paint gray and black inside of the cockpit, just gray on this and then black where the seat would be, just add a little bit of that shading in there. It just looks a bit nicer than if it was left red. However, the cockpit canopy itself is painted sort of a translucent orange with a red trim, so it comes out perfectly fine. The white on these antennae is painted, as you can probably tell from it being a little bit sloppy. The gray on the shoulders is pre-painted, which is nice. This is all paint on red plastic, including the gray back here. This up here is painted by me. They just left it blank, but yeah, sort of almost black for that, and then a yellow trim on the inside of these two. Thankfully, the camera for the rifle here is pre-painted. Nice metallic red, sort of, actually it's more of a metallic pink, like a pale red wine-ish color. Hard to describe, let's say metallic pink. All 3 of these ones are printed, which is nice, because it means that you don't have to deal with stickers, but hey, it's SMP. You usually don't have to deal with stickers. The yellow here on the crotch is part of the white. So yeah, all that yellow is painted, so a little concerned about that. The hoses on the legs here are pre-painted, which is nice. The pistons here on the back of the foot are just left part of the white plastic, so those do need to be painted though. And the big one, the hands are just red plastic, and they're supposed to be gray with the fingers, so that gray is painted by me. And that is true for all 3 sets of hands. The closed fists, the nice dynamic splayed hands, and the holding hands. To be fair, the pure red looks okay, but it's supposed to be gray, so it feels kind of weird they didn't pre-paint that. Now, getting into the gimmicks, gotta pull both these off anyway, so might as well. Both of these knuckle dusters can fold down if you remove the hands. Not quite how it works in the show, but it gets the same effect. They're very slightly angled inward, too, which it's fine. It looks good. Any sort of angle that's not looking at it directly down, where you can see there's no hand in there, looks completely fine. And there is the transformation. Well, I wouldn't really call it a transformation, it's more of like a speed mode, but point is, it does actually do it. You do have to pop these off. They're tabbed up in here, so it's a little bit annoying. You kind of just gotta wiggle them until they pop off. Okay, yeah, it's actually a real pain to get these off, because, I mean, look how tall that peg is. You might want to shave that down, actually, if you plan on swapping this off, and otherwise leave it on, because it's nice and secure. Also, these hoses on the feet are very slightly asymmetrical. The one that's a bit lower goes towards the center, so just don't get, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but aesthetically, you don't want to get those mixed up when you put them back on. Thankfully, there's actually a little cut on the back of these, so you can hinge them down, no trouble. And the ankle guard actually slides down slightly to cover the foot properly, which is very subtle, but I like it. Then you just want to get the legs out of the way, so you can untab this. Don't know what it is about my copy, but this just refuses to stay on to the little track that it's supposed to be on, so whatever. Then you just bring this out and down, and it got a really nasty stress mark on mine, and I don't know why, because there's no reason for that to have stressed at all. It's kind of a problem I have with this kit in general, but we'll go over that at the end. Anyway, this is supposed to be attached down there so it can come up. You do have to put both of these on. I will recommend when you're doing this, don't paint the inside because it'll make it too tight. Not that you can even tell when they're on anyway, so there's literally no reason to do that. Finagle both the arms onto these ball joints. It's actually a little bit annoying, so I'm going to do that off camera. And finally, you want to bring the legs up. Flip down the wheels. And just sort of get it straightened out so that it sits mostly flat. Like, lean that back very slightly so it's actually sitting right. Yeah, there we go. You see why I don't quite call this a proper transformation. It's more just a fast mode, but I actually really like this from an engineering standpoint. It makes a lot of sense, and it does allow for some pretty cool moments in the show where it sort of just comes in, swerves, and then just hops up on its feet into a dynamic shot. Like, the speed that it can transform due to this design allows for some cool shots. Also, there are actually a couple of action-based adapters. They plug into these, so you can either have to have two arms on this holding it on, or just, I don't know. Weird too, because these pegs are clearly the same size as the holes. So I don't even really know why they bothered. You just plug it directly in there and it would do the same thing. I guess maybe you don't want to worry about tolerances and you don't want to stress it, but hey, that hasn't stopped the parts on this from stressing anyway, so it feels kind of unnecessary. And as for a quick size comparison, the doll is surprisingly the bulkiest of the three, being about the same height as Layzner at the head, but having the massive backpack. So, to wrap this review up, I have a soft spot for it because I really, really love the doll. It is by far my favorite SPT design in Layzner. It is such a good design, I love it a lot. Though I will say the kit, engineering-wise, doesn't really do anything wrong. I don't really have any complaints. This is pretty much a perfect representation of the SPT. And that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Subscribe and hit the bell to be alerted for future reviews. Come chill in the Discord. Follow me on Twitter, if that's even still around. And consider supporting me on Patreon so I can keep bringing you videos like this. And, as always, until next time, happy building.